Chapter 19. The Ruby Gate. F. They had been invited to the evening's feast. Hesitant at first to dine with the enemy, the aroma of a hearty stew caused them to change their minds, and Fina led the way. The clan members were suspicious of the group, many of whom had never met outsiders. The men, struggling to articulate in the common tongue, asked about hunting practices in foreign lands. They were fascinated by stories of houses carved from rock and called the Iranians Stonelanders, though it was clear not all of them believed such dwellings truly existed. Haldor sighed, a note of melancholy in his voice.
I wish Pior were here. He had a knack for stories. Him and old Nan both.
Lytheria sat next to Fina, her mind appearing to be elsewhere. She had claimed her mind was in disarray, asking for some time to gather her thoughts before answering any queries. So, they had all agreed to tread lightly with their questions, waiting for Lytheria to approach them. Fina felt the delicate crust left on her cheeks from the recent tears, but put on a smile. She laid a tentative hand on Lytheria's thigh. "Sun blind me!" Lytheria gasped, her eyes narrowing on Fina's arm, blue, swollen, and marred as if the bone had splintered. "You're injured, Fina. Let me see." Wincing, Fina extended her arm as Lytheria clasped her hands around it. "I'm no radiant," Lytheria said, examining the arm. "And what I did to Ghalen and Ilskar was reckless. Warriors do not heal where I come from. It is too dangerous. To do so, one must pour all of their powers into the wounded, leaving the caster unconscious at best. And the result is never certain. But you can channel your weave through me. It won't be a miracle, but it should lessen the worst of your pain." Lytheria bowed her head, her hands emitting a faint glow, encased Fina's bruised arms. Fina stared blankly back. "Are you sure?" "Go on," Lytheria urged. Pulling her head back to shield herself, Fina focused on the familiar healing waves. She was wary. Her arms felt as if on the verge of breaking, and even a small embrace of the light could make matters worse. But as the weaves took effect, the worst pain was gone. She drew back in shock, lifting her arms, flexing her fingers into a fist, a feat that had been impossible just seconds ago. She lunged forward and planted a kiss on Lytheria's cheek. "Thank you," she exclaimed. A blush colored Lytheria's face as she looked away. They did the same to the worst of Haldor and Galen's wounds too, but even weaving through Lytheria left Fina exhausted. They finished their stew in silence. As they both sat looking out over the still lake, Lytheria cleared her throat. "I am sorry, Fina, but I think I will have to become something else now. Something different," she said, her head sinking as she waited for a reply. But Fina smiled at her. "I understand. That doesn't mean we can't still be friends, does it?" Lytheria smiled back. "I suppose not." Fina took a deep breath of the crisp air and clasped her cup. Lytheria was speaking now. Perhaps she would finally answer some questions. Though the problem was that Fina could not decide which of the 1,000 questions racing through her mind to ask first. She coughed, and Lytheria startled. "Sorry," Fina began hesitantly. "Do you think you could answer a few things? I know you asked us to wait, but..." Lytheria reached out and took her hand. "I will do my best." "Your memories, do you know why they returned?" Fina asked. Lytheria hesitated. "I do not know for certain, but it was like the night I healed Ghalen. I felt desperate to help, panicking. It was like pressing against a huge sheet of glass, with my ability to help just on the other side. The night I healed him, I managed to make a crack in the glass. When Pior fell, the glass shattered." "I see," Fina said, feeling a lump forming in her throat at the thought of Pior's fall. She swallowed and continued. "You use the same light. Do your people worship Lumar too? Are you the one who comes?" Lytheria began, then paused, massaging her temple. "I think it's complicated. We worship the same light. There is truth to your angels, but there's more to it. I just can't get the whole picture in my head, but I don't think I am your chosen one." At first, Fina felt a tinge of disappointment. but then a warmth bloomed in her chest. She had felt the light of Lumar course through her many times, affirming her faith. But the teachings she had grown up on always left her wondering how much of them were truly accurate. Somehow, hearing Lytheria confirm even this much gave her a new sense of purpose. "Do you remember anything from your time with the Elgric forces? Anything we might use in the war?" Fina asked, her voice hopeful. Lytheria looked away. "Only glimpses. Painful glimpses. Fighting. Death. My body moved on its own." She winced. "Can you tell me more about the decaying magic? Can we bring the others back like you? Why would this rave mark want us dead?" Lytheria pressed her eyes shut, her breath growing more labored. "I can't tell you more than I did in the chieftain's hut. Not because I don't want to, but my mind is in shambles. I feel like a broken mirror. I'm trying to see myself as a whole picture, but there are only 1,000 shattered pieces I'm struggling to make sense of. Forgive me, Fina." Fina nodded and tried to offer a reassuring smile. She felt a wave of frustration for not pressing Lytheria harder for answers, but seeing her friend in such pain made her relent. A few more cups of liquor later, she tried a different approach. Perhaps something more light-hearted would help. "So," she began, raising a playful eyebrow, "is there someone special waiting to sweep you off your feet on the other side of those walls? Any children?" Lytheria straightened. "Oh, no, not like that," she said, her voice quieter than before. "I don't think. The duties of a commander demanded my full attention. Perhaps there was someone I would spend my life with once my charge was over. But now, I don't know." Fina studied Lytheria's face, searching for any sign of what lay beneath the exterior. A flicker of sadness, fleeting yet undeniable, seemed to cross her features. "No husband, then," Fina added, her voice tentative. "And I suppose raising children is a bit archaic for elven generals." Lytheria chuckled. "Husband? No, we don't have such formal ceremonies. But we do commit ourselves to another, soul to soul, if we find a love that endures a test of time. As for children," she continued, "if elves wish to bring forth new life, blessed with our long lifespan, it can only occur within the Elnorith woods, close to the Heartforge, the city bathed in eternal sunlight. There, the life force of both parents is woven together, a shared sacrifice and a profound gift. Venturing to Elnorith with your beloved is considered the most romantic gesture among my people. It must be strange to you that 2 women or men might create a child together," Lytheria said with a smile. "Strange? It sounds wonderful. I could count on one hand the number of reasonable men I've met. Don't get me started on how few I believe could raise a child." She rolled her eyes. "And women?" Lytheria gave a sly smile. "Well, I would at least have to use both hands to count reasonable women." She laughed. "What about you?" Lytheria asked, her voice gentle. "Me?" Fina glanced toward Ghalen, seated a few logs away, the firelight catching in his hair. Her gaze lingered for a heartbeat before dropping back to the ground. "The duties of the temple demand my full attention. I don't have time to bother with love." "But you were with him once, weren't you?" Lytheria asked quietly. Fina nodded. A sad smile tugged at her lips. "We were engaged. Before the war." Lytheria blinked. "What happened?" "We saw each other a few times after it all began. But after my promotion and his coronation," Fina trailed off, her voice softening, "we just drifted. Too many duties, too many expectations. It wasn't one thing. It was everything." "I'm sorry," Lytheria said. Fina's eyes welled with tears again, but this time she wasn't sure if it was grief or something deeper. Maybe both. Still, she managed a smile through it. "So, any more memories surfacing?" she asked, brushing away a tear. "I suppose," Lytheria began, staring out into the night. "But they don't feel—" She paused, frowning in thought. "I can recall faces and titles, battles and feasts, ages of changes." Yet, it feels more like something I have read than something I have lived. I think I'll need some rest. Fina put her hand over Lytheria's. You will figure it out. Perhaps we can talk more tomorrow? Children ran around the feast, looking the guests up and down, ceaselessly asking questions which Lytheria translated. Why don't you have the demon eyes and fangs the stories speak of? One of them asked, peering intently at Fina. You seem just like regular people, another noted. They are shorter, one shouted. And they have no beards. Are they really grown-ups? Another added, tilting her head. Fina laughed and placed her fingers like fangs, causing the children to burst into laughter. But as the children ran off to play, her smile faded. She remembered hearing similar tall tales back at home. Tales portraying these very clan members as monstrous beings, demons even. It pains me. The lies the war spreads. I have seen the corrupted warriors myself. But all of them? No. These are just people living their lives. I fear if the rumors keep up this way, we will kill all these people without question. She sighed into the night. G. The following morning, Ghalen took one last look at the arena that had claimed his friend's life before turning back to the others who were packing their supplies. Before they could finish, a villager approached, leading 4 horses. You ride to the gate. No further, she said, scratching one of the mare's necks. No further. I assume we have to do without bridles or saddles here, Fina sighed, eyeing the horses. She glanced at Lytheria and added, I hope some of those memories are about riding. Bareback might be a lesson too far for you. Lytheria effortlessly mounted one of the brown horses. It should be no problem, she said with a smile, urging the horse into motion with a gentle heel. At the edge of the village, Kekor waited for them, leaning against a tree. Ghalen brought his horse to a stop before him.
I hope that next time we meet, it will not be as enemies, chieftain,
Ghalen said with a respectful nod.
I no fool, Solander. I see you leader of these men.
He pointed to the others.
You honor walker now. Any of your clan can walk in peace among mine,
he said, holding his fist to his chest. Ghalen could not help but smile.
I don't think he understands how large my clan is.
But he bowed again in thanks. Kekor grumbled something to Lytheria. Then he turned and walked back to the village. As they cantered through the forest, Ghalen felt something was different this time. The hills did not go on forever. The paths did not feel as harsh, and instead of watching them, the birds led their way, as if the forest helped them along their way. Ghalen rode alongside Lytheria, choosing his words with care.
What did he tell you?
She looked up from the road. He said he would try to stop his people, at least those not too far gone. But he didn't promise what effect that might have. He told me to relay to you that some clans will attack no matter what he does. And if his position as chieftain is challenged, his people will face you in battle. Ghalen frowned and continued in a cautious tone.
We have many questions, and I understand you might not be ready to answer them. But some clarity would be appreciated.
He glanced back at Fina and Haldor before refocusing his attention on her.
Can you open the gate by yourself? Are there guards waiting on the other side?
Lytheria looked up at him. First, we must go through the gate, then find elves loyal to me. She halted her horse and raised her hand, signaling the others to stop. The others drew rein behind her. Haldor nearly toppled off of his horse.
Ugh, I can't stop so suddenly without a saddle. Why have we stopped?
He asked, trying to regain his composure. Lytheria smiled. I think luck shines upon us. From behind a thick cluster of bushes, a tall half-elf emerged, pushing aside the leaves with an exaggerated glare. By the lights, you are alive! And our horses! Supplies! Very well stocked, too. Tell me, were you aided by the enemy, or did you simply charm them into generosity? Nelorith's sharp eyes darted between their faces before she gasped. Wait, where is Pyor? The group expressions darkened, and Ghalen felt a knot forming in his throat. Fina turned her horse away. while Lytheria remained composed, her voice firm. We were taken captive to face judgment. Pyor sacrificed himself to ensure the rest of us could pass. We now head toward the gate once more, my friend. Nelrith's playful air stilled in an instant. She bowed her head, her expression unreadable, fingers brushing lightly over her heart. Rest well, mighty warrior. May the force cradle you in its embrace. Her voice, usually lively, was barely a whisper beneath the rustling leaves. Then, as if snapping back into herself, she lifted her gaze only to freeze mid-motion at the sight of Lytheria. She blinked, then blinked again, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Mistress, are you... She gestured wildly, half pointing, half waving as if Lytheria might disappear if she didn't confirm it fast enough. Lytheria responded with a curt nod. Nelrith let out a strangled noise, somewhere between a laugh and a sigh, then swept into a deep, theatrical bow, pressing her hand to her heart. Igor custer clavon in corde, silverum, lumen a solari servios. Ghalen exchanged bewildered glances with the other humans. His knowledge of their language was shaky at best, but he caught a few words.
Keys and the sun?
Lytheria, composed as ever, responded with a graceful nod from atop her steed, mirroring Nelrith's gesture. Her voice was serene as she replied in common. And the sun shall bathe you in its warmth. Nelrith's eyes widened as she looked at Lytheria as though she had just stumbled upon a long-lost treasure. Then, just as quickly, she snapped back to her usual self, grinning. Oh, we have much to discuss!
What is this about, Nelireth?
Ghalen cut in. She stared back at Ghalen with a guilty expression and began. My king, I understand your confusion. Let me try to explain. She paused, searching for words. My people have been the guardians. She glanced momentarily at Lytheria, likely considering how much she should divulge. Drawing a deep breath, she continued. The High Elves entrusted us with an essential duty to guard the keys to the gates. When your grandmother united the Isle, my father offered his allegiance. But among our nobles, ancient vows dictated that if our ancestors called, we would heed the dawn of the sun and obey them. Without diverting her gaze from the path ahead, Lytheria said, The royal bloodline flows in you. Does it not, Nelrith? You know the oath. Do you hold the key? Nelrith caressed a crystal pendant on a golden chain around her neck. I do, bright one. I carry the seal. The corners of Lytheria's mouth tilted upward. That brings me relief, keyholder. It'll spare us the ride back to Gwelhir. Pivoting slightly towards Ghalen, her voice softened. Ghalen, the Gwelhir elves, or keepers, as we know them, have never wavered in their loyalty. They migrated, but they were chosen to guard the gate keys to our kingdom. Together with a high elf, the gate can be opened. On this side, we have appointed guardians who could open the gates alone. I am not one of them, but together with Nelrith's key, I can. Galen's mouth tightened as he mulled over the information.
What else don't I know?
But trusting Nelrith now would have to be another risk among plenty he had taken to get here.
Very well, Nelireth. If you remain true to the vow your father made to my ancestors, I won't hold it against you for honoring the old ways.
Ghalen finally said. Haldor extended a hand for Nelrith to ride behind him. The horse stomped up a bit in protest at having two riders, but carried on. They adjusted their pace to match Galen's. As they moved, he studied Nelrith intently. It was not long before the towering gate loomed ahead of them. Unlike the last time they approached, not only anticipation surged within him. Ghalen scanned the faces of the others and could only share in their pain.
I will make your sacrifice count, old friend.
They came to a halt, dismounting at the boundary that no human could cross. The voices in Galen's head grew so loud that he had to squint his eyes. As agreed, they released the horses, which promptly made their way back toward the forest's edge. Ghalen looked up at the intricate carvings on the massive gate.
No less impressive up close, is it?
He said, his head tilted fully back.
Not pretty enough to be worth this headache.
Haldor moaned. Lytheria stepped past him. I'll see what I can do. A golden light emanated from her eyes as she murmured in Elvish, "La sit transer." As she finished, Galen's eyes widened. The voices vanished. It was completely quiet. Nothing but the wind reached his ears. Lytheria extended her hand to Nelrith. "Would you entrust me with your key, High Ranger, to fulfill the oath of your forebears?" Nelrith gave a deep bow and handed her the crystal, now faintly glowing. She turned to the rest of the group, a smile gracing her lips. "Come, I will now welcome you as the first of humankind to pass through the Ruby Gate." "But, Lytheria." Fiona hesitated. "We can't come any closer. The barrier keeps us back." Fiona extended her hand, attempting to press against the unseen force, but there was nothing. Taking tentative steps, the humans gasped, one after another, as they realized they could indeed approach the gate. A warm surge passed through Ghalen, standing right before the gate. It felt as though all the sadness in the world had vanished. Only happy memories came to him. Lytheria moved to the forefront of the gate, holding the crystal in her closed palm. She pressed it against the towering door, bowing her head. She was enveloped in a brilliant luminescence. With a thunderous crack, the gate began to swing open. The sound was deafening, as though the very earth itself was being rent in two. Ghalen was torn between the urge to flee and the instinct to cling to something stable. Yet, fear anchored him to the spot. Once the gateway stood open, a thick fog shrouded their view of the lands beyond. Lytheria pivoted to Nelrith and offered the crystal back. "You've upheld the oath of your kin, guardian of the keys. Bask in the sun's embrace," she intoned. Kneeling in deference, Nelrith responded, "I serve the light of the sun." The group began walking through the wide open gate, hearts pounding.